Does your vision for business match what you see happening on a daily basis? Welcome to Jim White's Circle of Success show, where Jim White brings it all together. For over 30 years, Jim White has worked with organizations and individuals worldwide to help develop and implement excellence. You'll get the inside story on how to create innovative leaders from one corner of your company to the other. Get everyone on your team contributing to the bottom line. Keep building revenue, even when the economy and your customers have flatlined, and more. Jim White's Circle of Success show covers it all, from communication to contract negotiation, from personal fulfillment to revving up cash flow. It's not about theories, it's about showing what works and how to make it work for you. And now, here's your host, Jim White.
Thank you, Dave, and welcome to the show. We got a fantastic show for you today, ladies and gentlemen. We have Congressman Sam Farr with us for the hour. But before we welcome Sam Farr to the studio, I'd like to share some news that I received just prior to going on air. Stephen Covey, which is the founder of Covey, and he's the author of 7 Habits. His friend, Stephen, his son, I should say, Stephen M.R. Covey, is a very dear friend of mine. We got news that his dad passed away 3 hours ago, and I did get a notification from the family, and I just wanted to share with our viewing audience around the world. We know that Stephen has been instrumental, and he's dedicated over 70 years of his life to making individuals' lives better. So we extend our condolences to the family and let them know that our thoughts and prayers are with you, Stephen M.R. and your family. And we'll be right back with Congressman Farr right after this message.
The current business climate is becoming more and more complex. CEOs on the cutting edge know they must explore strategies to understand and command the marketplace. The first annual JLW CEO Summit, Strategies for a Complex Business World, will enable CEOs and business leaders to explore strategies applicable to an ever-increasing complex environment. A unique opportunity to become educated in complexity theories and inspired to turn those theories into real business strategies with a focus on earnings, market share, and brand improvement. A powerful format that is a blend of the World Economic Forum, the Clinton Initiative, and TED Talk. Hosted by best-selling author and world-recognized management consultant Jim White, Ph.D. Along with many specialized business authorities, you will explore strategies for a complex world. The much-anticipated JLW CEO Summit, Strategies for a Complex Business World, will be held in the beautiful Hayes Mansion in San Jose, California, September 25th and 26th. Visit us online at jlwceosummit.com.
Welcome back, Congressman Farr.
Thanks for having me on your show. This is wonderful.
I tell you what, I've been looking forward to this. Our mutual friend Susan Barrett says at some point in time you've got to have Sam on the show. And in preparation for the show, we did a lot of research and couldn't find anything in any of the many years of interviews that you've done where people really understood who Sam Farr was. How's that? So we're gonna talk about that.
Complex Sam Farr.
Complex Sam Farr. So we're gonna talk about that a little bit today. And but 18 years in Congress, right?
No, longer than that, 20.
Is it 20 now?
Mm-hmm.
1993?
93 to right now. And I'm running for election, so.
Oh, perfect timing, right?
Oh, yeah.
Perfect timing. Question. 20 years into Congress, 12 years in state prior to that, right?
Yeah, and before that I was a county supervisor.
And county supervisor. So what, one day you wake up and say, I'm going to be in politics. Why did you decide that route?
Oh, I don't think you wake up one day and find yourself going to be in politics. You just, you do things. I mean, my father was in politics and I was never going to be in it. But I was very involved, I was active in school and student council and stuff like that. I was active in sports. I thought I'd be a high school biology teacher, but after graduation from college, I had to do public service. And because of dyslexia and my eyesight, I couldn't get into the Navy and fly planes, so I thought I'd do the next wildest thing and join the Peace Corps before anybody else had. Didn't know anybody joined the Peace Corps.
What year was that?
1963.
That's in the early years of the Peace
Started
Corps.
in 1961.
Right.
So we just had our
President Kennedy.
50th anniversary
Right.
last year. So it's been quite a ride. And coming out of that, I mean, I really learned about the culture of poverty. I learned about how to empower people. And I decided I want to come back to the United States, not necessarily be in politics, to be elective politics, but to right wrongs, to teach people how to petition their government, to essentially instill the skills of community organizing so that you can change things if you don't like them. And we had a lot of poverty here in Monterey County. The war on poverty had started, and I thought, I couldn't invoke it. I was in Colombia, South America. I was not a citizen.
In the Peace Corps?
In Peace Corps in Medellin. And before all the violence and drugs were in that area, and realized I just wanted to have ability to help people help themselves. And got back and ended up working for the California legislature as a staffer, and then from that I got appointed to the Board of Supervisors in 1975, and it's been in an elective office ever since. And nothing's changed. I mean, it's there to petition government to right wrongs. That's what my job is, and to at the same time empower people that they can help themselves.
There were some events, and if I go some places I shouldn't go, just say don't go there.
We don't have any of that in politics.
Okay. That's what
It's a public life, everything we do is.
How do you do that? I'm a private guy, even though we're here on television. But my hat's off to you folks, or your families, and the sacrifices that goes along with this service is just phenomenal. I had an opportunity in the mid '80s, and you're probably going to recognize this name, Orville Freeman. Mm-hmm. Orville
was a big fan. My father was a big fan of Orville Freeman's. In fact, knew him very well. And when he was Secretary of Agriculture, they worked very closely together. My father was in Washington after he served in public office. He got appointed by President Johnston to head up the Highway Beautification Program.
Right. Well, I worked for Orville.
Wow. Back in the early days.
Now everybody's figured out. Everybody's calculating
They don't
age
know. They don't
right?
know. They don't know
what that is.
They don't know who Orville Freeman is.
Yeah.
You better explain to them.
Orville Freeman. What a story. Orville, as you say, he's four-time governor of Minnesota.
Yeah.
And he was a very close friend of John Kennedy. And when the Kennedys started running in the election, Orville, and most people don't realize, Orville was actually slated to be the vice presidential running mate.
That's right. My father was at that convention.
He was
in Los Angeles,
in
1960.
In 1960, and Orville was the one, if you go back and look at this old footage, nominated John Kennedy at the 1960 convention. Well, as years passed, I sold one of my first companies that I started in 1980 to another name that you're going to probably recognize, Red Blunt Construction Company. Red was Postmaster General during the Johnson administration.
Yeah, I do remember that.
And so I was working for Red's company in Montgomery, Alabama. And I sold him my first company, and I became CEO of Blunt World Trade. And I met Orville. And Orville, for some reason, he took me aside and he said, "Young man," he said, you really got a future here, but he said, one thing that you got to kind of tone down. I was a little bit more hyper and a little bit more type A, and it works in politics. He said, that's not going to really work that well. So Orville got funded from USAID to start an organization called Joint Agricultural Consultative Corporation. Mm-hmm. And I started leading trade missions for Orville, and I covered Haiti, I covered Sri Lanka, Thailand, and Nigeria for two years, working for Orville out of Washington back in the mid '80s. So there's some similarities. And
Well, similarities with what I'm doing. I'm now ranking member on the Ag Appropriations Committee, and we have responsibility for the entire Department of Agriculture, including all its foreign advisors in every embassy, including the Federal Trade Commission, the regulatory body, and Future Trading Corporation, and FDA. So we have a budget just in our committee alone that exceeds that of the state of California. So I'm very glad that I had those opportunities to, one, work for the legislative analysts and to really understand budgets and to understand how to write bills and how to analyze bills and all of that, because I find it very helpful. But trade is a big part of it, and frankly, this area is, I always say the Pacific Rim trade began in Monterey. Began when this was a port city of the under Spain. We had galleons leaving here to go to Acapulco, to Lima, Peru, to Manila from Monterey. And it was the first place in the continental western United States that started this trade. And they took tallow and tan bark out of here, hides. And that was our first commodities. It was all about agriculture, still is today.
Yeah.
So it was amazing how the rest of California is sprawled out. But our areas remain in agriculture because it was always productive from the day one.
Yeah.
This was the land that produced the goods with which one could trade and do commerce. And instead of just sprawling it out like Los Angeles, San Diego, or even the San Francisco Bay Area, we've stayed actively in agriculture. Now are the number one leading agricultural region in the world.
And it is absolutely phenomenal. We've got to get a quick break in. We come back. I'd like to continue to talk about the region, 17th District in economic development, and then we'll do a couple of segments, about the national platform and get your thoughts on the upcoming elections. And there's some major things going to happen in January in regards to taxes and things like that. So I'd love to get your thoughts on
All
that.
right. Be glad to. Yeah, look forward to it.
You're watching the Circle of Success Show. We'll be right back after these messages with Congressman Sam Farr.
This segment is brought to you by Circle of Success, a dynamic, year-long intensive management and leadership development process designed to help individuals and organizations reach their goals quickly. A customized process addressing specific needs and identifying the critical opportunities particular to the individual and organization, with results measured in increased revenue, increased net profits, and increased equity. The Circle of Success, inspiring excellence in people. At jlwhiteinternational.com/circles. 12 O'Clock High is one of the undisputed best movie classics of all time. Required viewing at U.S. service academies and officer training schools. It is also one of the best business learning tools available. The movie rated #1 by top executives for its influence on their management styles. Now, the inspiration of the 12 O'Clock High Leadership and Management Summit. An innovative one-day event and 30-day follow-up where you'll quickly see what's working and not working on the front lines of your company and in your own leadership style. From J.L. White International and hosted by best-selling author and world-recognized management consultant Jim White, Ph.D., this event has already been attended by more than 100,000 business leaders in 22 industries worldwide. Now it's your turn. The 12 O'Clock High Leadership and Management Summit.
We're back with Congressman Farr. I recently had Mayor Dennis Donahue on the show with Hy Rothstein. And we were talking about a meeting that you facilitated and where Hy Rothstein's group put together a study in how they could use counter-terror insurgency programs in the city of Salinas. And so what prompted you to, this process is just phenomenal. We got a lot of follow-up coming on that show. It's phenomenal how the resources, and I know you've been a proponent of this forever on the peninsula, We got such rich resources. Naval Postgraduate School and other places, Panetta Institute, MS, I just go on and on and on. But sometimes we kind of miss the opportunity to bridge from the public sector or the educational sector into the private sector and law enforcement. So we had just a great show on that. So what prompted that?
Well, I've one of the wonderful things about politics, it takes you to every nook and cranny, not only geographically. So I've been to every little back canyon and trail and road in Monterey, San Benito, and Santa Cruz counties, but also get to know all the assets. Great University of California at Santa Cruz, incredible community college systems that we have around here, and very instrumental in creating the new California State Monterey Bay when Fort Ord closed, and have, because each of the military installations comes to me and says, here's what we do, and we need your help in Congress for our appropriations. And as I got to know them all, I said, my God, you're all fenced in. Nobody knows what you do. You get your money from Washington. You don't have to go through the city council, the state legislature. Do you mind if we open this up and share a little bit so we can start building some corporate kind of a liaison with the community of, being a good citizen? And the Naval Postgraduate School, I urged them. I said, you can't just sit here without understanding what's going on in our communities. Mm-hmm. And you're here with all this great faculty that understands the violence in Afghanistan and Iraq and what causes the culture of poverty to grow terrorists. We got a culture of poverty in Salinas that doesn't speak English. Mm-hmm. It's a community within our country that is got a lot of the problems that cultures of poverty have. Why don't we study that? And got together with the Salinas Police Department and the mayor, and out of that came the gangs and guerrillas pamphlets. Very good. I've been circulating this in Washington. This is the kind of, I think, wonderful opportunity that we have here. And we've carried that on even further than that, of getting all the other military installations. There's 9 of them here in Monterey County, including the Coast Guard. It's not military, but they're in uniform. Mm-hmm. And we've created Team Monterey. Now they're doing sharing and inter cooperative agreements. They don't have to go to Washington to find the money. They find it within their own budgets here, where they can share and collaborate. And I think it's a real model for how the military ought to be operating. Each of their services really don't understand what the Navy doesn't understand what the Army's doing, and doesn't understand what the Air Force is doing. Well, they all understand it when they come to the Naval Postgraduate School, because they teach interoperations, they teach sound management structure, and we can apply that to the communities as well. So I think that there's opportunity to grow an incredible research community here, a private investment who want to get access to the Naval Postgraduate School. I mean, the Naval Postgraduate School there's nothing like it anywhere in the world.
I agree.
It's got, brilliant faculty, civilian faculty recruited from all the best universities. It's accredited university. It has to meet all the standards that Harvard and Yale and Stanford and Cal and all the other schools have to meet. Yet they don't have a football team, and they don't have a summer vacation, and the students are highly motivated, a little bit older, and they're getting masters and PhDs, not only students from this country but from foreign countries as well. So what an incredible place to have all that talent here on the Monterey Peninsula. Let's take advantage of it in the region and see if we can use some of that brain trust to help solve some of the local problems.
I agree, and the excitement that we've received from the show with Dennis and Hy Rothstein, it's just been phenomenal from around the globe.
Yeah, well, it's one of the things we did. I lobbied the White House to put the city of Salinas on the list of the 7 cities that the government is going to look at as pilot programs for how do you deal with gang violence. Mm-hmm. And Salinas wasn't on that list. And I went to him and said, wait a minute. Mm-hmm. Look what we're doing. We've got the great Naval Postgraduate School working with the city. It's got gang violence. And so all these cities, New York and Boston and Chicago and Detroit, and the only 2 cities in California are San Jose, big city, multi-million population, and little old Salinas, 150,000 population. So, we're up there with the big guys, and frankly, we're teaching those big guys some things about how to organize community and get from the bottoms up. As I say, the old adage, it takes a village. It takes certainly to solve gang violence.
Right.
In any community, it takes a village. And then that village has to be greater than Salinas itself. It's really the whole county, the whole region, because that gang violence, whether it's Salinas or Watsonville or Hollister or the Monterey Peninsula, seaside with gang violence, we actually, we had murders in Pebble Beach. So it's not as if any area here is immune from evil happening, but you can do things to prevent that, not just by security. You can't rest your way out of it. You've got to build the support system so that kids don't get into violence, and frankly, a lot of the violence on the peninsula is because of drugs. Kids need money to sustain their drug habits, and they come from very prominent families. So I'm very interested in seeing if the lessons learned in Salinas can be applied elsewhere.
And I agree, and we got to get another break in. When we come back, I'd like to share just a recent meeting that I had with Dennis and the new chief of police in Salinas and Hy Rothstein. That we just had dinner last week to further discuss the show and some follow-up activities. So we'll share that.
Kelly McMahon's wonderful. I'm glad he was
tell you
chosen.
what.
Great police chief.
He's got the package.
Yeah.
He's got the package. We'll be right back after this. You're watching the Circle of Success Show with Dr. Jim White.
The current business climate is becoming more and more complex. CEOs on the cutting edge know they must explore strategies to understand and command the marketplace. The first annual JLW CEO Summit, Strategies for a Complex Business World, will enable CEOs and business leaders to explore strategies applicable to an ever-increasing complex environment. A unique opportunity to become educated in complexity theories and inspired to turn those theories into real business strategies with a focus on earnings, market share, and brand improvement. A powerful format that is a blend of the World Economic Forum, the Clinton Initiative, and TED Talk. Hosted by best-selling author and world-recognized management consultant Jim White, Ph.D. Along with many specialized business authorities, you will explore strategies for a complex world. The much-anticipated JLW CEO Summit, Strategies for a Complex Business World, will be held in the beautiful Hayes Mansion in San Jose, California, September 25th and 26th. Visit us online at jlwceosummit.com. This segment is brought to you by Circle of Success, a dynamic, year-long intensive management and leadership development process designed to help individuals and organizations reach their goals quickly. A customized process addressing specific needs and identifying the critical opportunities particular to the individual and organization, with results measured in increased revenue, increased net profits, and increased equity. The Circle of Success, inspiring excellence in people. At jlwhiteinternational.com/circles.
We're back with Congressman Sam Farr. Prior to the break, we were talking about all the good stuff that the city of Salinas is doing, and we were talking about the new police chief, and McMillan is his name, and Kelly McMillan. And boy, I agree with you. What a wonderful choice. Like I said, I had an opportunity to have dinner with him and Mayor Donahue and Hy Rothstein, and it was a follow-up of the show that we did to talk about, okay, what can we do next to continue building a brand to let the world know that Salinas is more than just gang activity? And all of the work and using the resources, and I can tell you, Congressman Farr, put in Naval Postgraduate School, and this Hy Rothstein and other people, they're on fire. They are so passionate, so excited about pulling these resources together. So thank you. And then getting Washington to recognize Salinas the way he did has been a big deal. Now, like I said, Salinas is playing with the big boys now, and Kelly was sharing with me he's going to be in Detroit, I think, in a couple of weeks, and some type of thing. So it's a great opportunity to bring the resources and all the tools that we're doing on the Monterey Peninsula, which will apply not only nationally but globally from all the great resources we have here. So,
well, I think what I told you, I got into politics because I like to fix things that are broken. And we got a lot of things in our society are broken, but we also have a lot of tools to fix them with, and those tools are here.
Yeah.
It's the land that it produces this incredible economy of agriculture and tourism and attracting bright people who want to be in academic institutions and to be teachers and professors and language instructors. So it's a combination of we've got the place and we've got the people. And my job is to try to say, look, if we just start putting people together, there's a just like you do in business. I mean, and remember, a lot of this also relies on the private sector.
Yeah.
Because people say, oh, there's too much government spending. Look at all of the revenue that comes in that supports this billion-dollar military footprints that are around this county. All that gets spent here locally. That goes into the restaurant trade. It goes into the housing trade. It goes into the schools and kids, the families, and buying automobiles. I mean, it's all part of the economy. And so, that's why we try to make sure that the military doesn't close our bases, because we saw when Fort Ord closed, 33,000 people got up and walked away and left a hole here of about a $500 million that wasn't coming into this. And we had a recession here for a while, and we've been able to recapture that. So I think it. We're always certainly working with Susan Barrich at Project 17. This whole idea of how do we grow this entrepreneurial spirit? How do we know that those people with fresh ideas can get the value-added help they need here through the small business development centers that Teresa Tomei. I'm very involved in getting that started at Cabrillo College back when I was in the California legislature, the Small Business Development Center, and working now with all our community colleges. You just see, and once in a while it comes back to you. For example, there's a wonderful business that started in Santa Cruz called Penny Ice Cream. Penny Ice Cream because of our bailout bill, we created some lending capital for businesses, to startups, where, as a business person, right. Well, a lot of those ideas, you go down and they say, well, what do you got to put up for your loan?
Right.
Well, I don't really have anything. So this was like a 90% loan guarantee that the federal government created for startup business. And sure enough, this couple began their dream of starting a ice cream company. And they called it Penny Ice Cream because on Thursdays they give you a second scoop for a penny. And they had training in this. They'd worked in Europe. They worked in the food industry. And this thing has not only become some national attention because they said thank you to the government, which caught the eye of everybody when nobody was thanking them. And they realized that but for these federal programs, they wouldn't have gotten started. But now they've expanded. They've got 2 other stores. So, a little over a year, they've been a phenomenal success. So I think that there's opportunities to grow so many different kinds of businesses, whether it be people with technology, where we can use the infrastructure of our academic, technological, science-based communities around here, whether it be how do we, language line. Can you consider that?
Right.
That was started by a San Jose cop who was always responding to domestic violence. And he said, because people were yelling and screaming in a foreign language, when I entered the scene, I didn't know whether to pull a handkerchief or pull a gun. He said, I wish I knew what was going on. So he said, why don't we have a 911 system where we can put people speaking the language on the telephone and somebody can tell us what the heck the problem is.
And that was the original AT&T language line that
created that. Jeff Monks created that, sold it to AT&T, and then it spun off on its own, and it's been a huge. And they're that it's global.
Yeah.
But guess where the brain trust or the corporate headquarters for it is? Right here in Monterey, because we've got so many. You can have people answering a phone anywhere in the world, but the matrix for how you do all that and who you put on call, who you hire, and how you translate very quickly. Somebody's saying, I don't know what language they're speaking. Put them on the line, and they can understand within about 10 seconds what language is and hook you up with. That all happens in Monterey. You think that happened in New York with the United Nations, happened in Washington with all the embassies there? No, it's happening in the language capital of the world, Monterey, California.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you cannot tell, Congressman Farr is somewhat passionate about the Monterey Peninsula, right? And this is what I really wanted to showcase. This is the first time we've had an opportunity to meet in person, and I'm so thankful for that. But watching it over the years, I kept saying, people really need to know who this man is. He needs to know that, the passion is behind that. So we got to get another break in. We'll come back and we'll continue to discuss some economic development. You're watching the Circle of Success Show with Dr. Jim White. We'll be back with Congressman Farr right after this message.
12 O'Clock High is one of the undisputed best movie classics of all time. Required viewing at U.S. service academies and officer training schools. It is also one of the best business learning tools available. The movie rated #1 by top executives for its influence on their management styles. Now, the inspiration of the 12 O'Clock High Leadership and Management Summit. An innovative one-day event and 30-day follow-up where you'll quickly see what's working and not working on the front lines of your company and in your own leadership style. From J.L. White International and hosted by best-selling author and world-recognized management consultant Jim White, Ph.D., this event has already been attended by more than 100,000 business leaders in 22 industries worldwide. Now it's your turn. The 12 O'Clock High Leadership and Management Summit.
Hour more.
We're back with Congressman Farr. Excuse me. Wow. Fort Ord. And you mentioned Susan Berridge. And I'd be remiss without talking a little bit more about Susan Berridge. She's the chair of the business plan competition. And what got me to thinking about that was you've been such a supporter of that. And we had the winners on the show. The young Ryan
terrific.
And, Ben.
I've been following up with some of those folks. Mm-hmm. Yeah, trying to get their next step,
And that's the whole thing. One of the things that Project 17 International is doing is bringing the next step. What happens very often, as you well know, they'll win, but they have no foundation. They have no funding. They have no mechanism. They have no leadership to take it to a real viable company. And that's one of the new tools that
there certainly are funding opportunities out there. The government has them, and combined with private sector banking, you need to be able to take risks, and somebody's got to cover that risk. So you usually, and it's a private sector, you put up, what do you put up, your house? You put up whatever you might have. The government allows you to have that because we bear the risk. We bear the fact that if you don't make it, we're gonna cover that loan. So we really want to get people started with businesses. All great businesses and all Fortune 500 companies started at one time with somebody with a great idea in a garage, like David Packard. And so I think that those ideas are here, and I think that we have just as many bright people living in our area as any place in the United States or the world. I think we have some advantages that nobody else has. We have the advantages of having a linguistic ability, and I think if you want to sell something in today's world, you've got to buy, the old adage that if you want to buy something, all you need is money. If you want to sell something, you better speak the language of the buyer. Right. If we want to sell American ideas, we want to sell the values of our cultures, we're going to have to speak the language of other cultures. And who lives here that knows how to do that? All this incredible community of people that came to teach at the Defense Language Institute and have lived here for years and years, and they're second, third generations. Big, Korean communities and Afghan communities and Vietnamese communities and German communities and Russian communities. They're all here. And we can, through the Monterey Institute of International Studies, we can teach you how to develop business and get an international business background. So you can take a little local idea and all of a sudden find your customers are maybe thousands of miles away in another country that speaks another language, but you can communicate with them. You can't do that in every community in the United States. You can't go and have the kind of resources that we have at our community colleges to have you start small businesses we have with our small business centers that teach you how to have a business plan and how to get financed with the help that you've provided and Susan's provided to link all these, as I said, connect the dots. And if you look around, I mean, the world's got to eat, right? And the world wants to eat fresh food. Who knows how to get it from the field to the fork faster and keep it fresh without chemicals? Where all the organic business started, right here, where all the fresh to market stuff started, international abilities, Fortune 500 companies selling foods, packaging foods, distributing foods, all out of Salinas. I mean, it's awesome. And so the list goes on and on. And then besides that, if you want to learn about the ocean, which is pretty important to this planet,
absolutely,
there's no better place to come and learn about the ocean and in all kinds of aspects, because we have about 22 different entities now around Monterey Bay that are dealing with the ocean in one way or another. So you pick out whatever your interest, whether it's chemistry, whether it's geography, geology, whether it's the whole working and studying with mammals of the sea. You know, it's very interesting what I learned about when I got involved with the oceans. The oceans are so much older than landforms. Mm-hmm. Life in the oceans is millions and millions of years older, and guess what those life forms have done? They've developed some enzymes and some abilities to resist. You think it's a liquid environment they live in, to resist diseases, to resist poisons, to resist. So they've got some sophistication that land mammals haven't yet created. So maybe we ought to study those systems to find, and that's why Stanford and certainly their medical school is very interested in the work that's being done at Hopkins Marine Station. Mm-hmm. So I'm very optimistic that, as I tell people, times are tough. I meet a lot of people out of work. I meet a lot of people that are struggling, and I said, you know what? I totally understand it. I totally agree with you. But guess what? There isn't any place in the world that's better right now than where you are right here for the future. We're better prepared to grow the future than any place I know of. And I'm very excited to be able to help people connect those dots.
I couldn't agree with you more. And man, I'm just going to have to be a standing reservation every Monday morning to get me fired up. And every Monday at 4 a.m. We bring all of our consultants from around the world. We all come together every Monday morning, just kind of share the last week and what we're going to do this week. And that's the theme that we're seeing. Even though we got challenges, but the private sector, we got to continue to take that role and not say it's not rely on government all the time to be the solutions to everything. So that's our message all the time.
But you know your own story. I mean, you came here, right?
Right.
You had resources. You could live anywhere in the world you wanted to live.
Right.
And and there are lots of people like you. Well, you know what? We don't have to necessarily have all those businesses here. We can just have the training for those businesses here. We can bring the executives in here and have retreats. And we can do more than just play golf and go wine tasting, because when we open up all the other opportunities you have here, exciting opportunities. I mean, I always say that if you take all the hang gliding and parachuting and rock climbing and underwater experiences you can have here, and the roller coaster in Santa Cruz, and the mountains. You can go through trees, through the zip lines in the Santa Cruz Mountains. I mean, you add all this stuff up and go on cattle drives in southern Monterey County. You add all this up, we got more rides than Disneyland. And we're reality, and reality beats fantasy. And guess what? We got a lot of e-tickets, too. So this is the place.
I couldn't agree with you more. I hate to do this, but we got to get another break in. And I hate to go to break, but I got to pay the bills. So we'll be right back with Congressman Farr right after these messages.
The current business climate is becoming more and more complex. CEOs on the cutting edge know they must explore strategies to understand and command the marketplace. The first annual JLW CEO Summit, Strategies for a Complex Business World, will enable CEOs and business leaders to explore strategies applicable to an ever-increasing complex environment. A unique opportunity to become educated in complexity theories and inspired to turn those theories into real business strategies with a focus on earnings, market share, and brand improvement. A powerful beautiful format that is a blend of the World Economic Forum, the Clinton Initiative, and TED Talk. Hosted by best-selling author and world-recognized management consultant Jim White, Ph.D. Along with many specialized business authorities, you will explore strategies for a complex world. The much-anticipated JLW CEO Summit, Strategies for a Complex Business World, will be held in the beautiful Hayes Mansion in San Jose, California, September 25th and 26th. Visit us online at jlwceosummit.com. This segment is brought to you by Circle of Success, a dynamic, year-long intensive management and leadership development process designed to help individuals and organizations reach their goals quickly. A customized process addressing specific needs and identifying the critical opportunities particular to the individual and organization, with results measured in increased revenue, increased net profits, and increased equity. The Circle of Success, inspiring excellence in people. At jlwhiteinternational.com/circles.
We're back with Congressman Farr. City of Salinas, Capital One, recently closed, or said they were going to close. And forgive me if I'm not getting all the language here correct, but I was talking to Dennis Donahue, the mayor of Salinas, and we was talking about, the city of Salinas is working really hard to try to get control, for lack of a better word, of that facility, and trying, Mayor Donahue's idea is get this in research park and bring technology and ag together. And what's your thoughts on that?
Well, first of all, I'm totally sympathetic to the tragedy that's happened in Salinas. This is one of the largest, if not the largest, private sector employer in Monterey County, with people making really good salaries. HSBC sold their holdings to Capital One, and Capital One says we already have. What they do over there is not only they do credit card. When Household Finance had it, they had a credit card. Well, they went out and they also, because they have all the facilities to process credit cards. And so, for example, all of the Bed Bath & Beyond credit card transactions in the United States are processed in that facility. I went over there a few weeks ago with Dennis and showed me. I mean, over 1 million checks a day come in. And they all come in paper and in envelopes, like people still paying bills. And nothing leaves that building in paper. It's all then put into electronic deposits and so on.
I see.
So and they do it for a lot of other credit cards as well. In fact, they give credit cards out, and if you lose them, they've got a whole section there to convey them in. There's dozens and dozens. But this kind of facility, Capital One doesn't need because they already have it.
I see.
So what we have there is, my God, if you go over there, it's modern buildings. It's 3 buildings in a campus, including probably the best child care center in the region, with professionally cared people. And that was just for the employees of Capital One. So, what's going to become of this? And that's where Dennis's ideas come in, and I've helped him a lot. First of all, I want to take care of the people that are there. They're in, not a good time to be unemployed, not a good time if you're making damn good money and paying your mortgages and putting your kids through college and all of a sudden be told you're going to lose your job. Some of those folks will be given an offer to move if their skills are needed somewhere else, and they have that option to choose it. Many of them will want to stay here, just like everybody else wants to stay here. And we're going to help them see if they can find other jobs here. But more importantly, we'd love to have somebody come in and just take over. And I've been working with the Secretary of Labor, Hilda Solis, good friend. She's at the top of her list trying to work on, we've got some aid money coming to Salinas to help them. The Capital One is going to keep the building open for a number of years. So the city wants to buy it or acquire it and be able to create an entrepreneurial center there so that businesses can grow. And, whatever they're trying to do, I'm trying to help them, and we've had some meetings with the federal. I've had the Secretary of Commerce made it a top list. In fact, found a potential buyer for the whole property. I don't know where that's going right now. Turn it over to Dennis. But I think we have to realize that we have, when you go in there, you wonder, my God, what all these ag companies that are doing Fortune 500 business, wouldn't they love to have a huge financial center to support all them? So, maybe somebody with a great idea will show how to sort of break this into sort of condominiumize small businesses in a collaborative. And sustain and hire a lot of those people. Certainly got the skill sets.
You just hit on something. In the ag industry, the John Deeres of the world, the New Hollands of the world, and if I leave anyone out,
well, that's the equipment industry.
That's the equipment industry for that side.
We looked at the ag product that comes out of Monterey County is in excess of it's up about $4 billion. And if you do the value added of that, it's almost 3 times that. It's up to about $8 billion, to twice that, $8 billion. When you think of all the financial institutions, banks, and lending companies, when you think of the equipment companies like you mentioned, the big tractor companies, the people that make the trucks that have to haul these things, all of that added together. And Monterey County is probably the first of the 58 counties in California that has done, not only all counties have to do an annual ag report, which tells you what crops are growing, what their value is, where are these crops being sent, what countries buy them, what states buy them. We can tell you exactly where every strawberry from the Central Coast goes and every head of lettuce goes. But we hadn't been until I asked them to do a value. What's the value of the entire industry, not just the strawberry industry, the lettuce industry, cattle industry, and so on. And so this report is out, and I think for anybody who wants to really look at the capacity to produce $5 billion worth of sales of agriculture, this new report that the Ag Commissioner has on the total value of agriculture, on the economic benefit.
I'm just making a note to get that report.
You should have. Matter of fact, you ought to have Eric Loudson come and speak to you, because he's dean of the Ag Commissioners in California, and California the only state with Ag Commissioners in every county.
Yeah, I would love that, because that's great information. This is what we want to do with the show, is to be able to give information for everybody in the district and around the world to really understand what we're doing here in Monterey County, and that's what the show is all about. So,
well, what I really try to, I think from my experience of living in a third world country and working, I think that the potential for developing tourism industries, support industry. I mean, tourism is everything, right? It's the big stuff. It's airlines. It's rental cars. It's hotels, but more than that, it's all this. It's also the woman that makes the jams in her home. It's the specialty stand. The guy who has I went to Maui, way off in the boonies, and he's in the boonies for a reason, because he has a little old trailer and he makes fish tacos. And people go there because that's the experience, and you can charge more. There's no electricity, he has a little tiny generator. I thought, that's the entrepreneur, the guy that starts the fish taco stand out in the boonies. There are so many opportunities to do that here. And what's interesting about it is you don't need a lot of capital. Yeah. And so what we have, and I think our tourism industry hasn't even, we've just done a little bit on tourism, because we've all stuck to the same old themes. If we open up all of the excitement that's going on in rural areas, in the backwaters of Parkfield down in southern, where they have cattle roundups and the redwoods and so on, we add all this together, and what people are making in their homes as woodworkers and as cooks and so on, you put that all into the stream. I remember reading, and you'll see the pictures of it, that the first tourism stand on the Monterey Peninsula was by the Chinese abalone and Japanese abalone fishermen. I think it was Chinese at the time, who had a little kind of community of fishermen right where the Pebble Beach Club is in Stillwater Cove. And when the old Del Monte Hotel used to take people on buckboards on what they called the 17-mile drive, they would stop at this stand where they were selling abalone shells. And they claim that is the first tourism shop that we had. Now, who would have ever believed it was started by people harvesting abalone here in the latter part of the 18th century or the 1800s. So those kind of people are still around. We just got to link up that little smart thing with some big tour operator. Say you got to buy these things, and all of a sudden business will take off.
Yeah. Listen to you talk about the peninsula. It makes me want to go to explore. I'm living here all the time, so I need to go to explore. We got to get another
Take you months.
break. Yeah, absolutely. We got to get another break in. You're watching Circle Success Show with Dr. Jim White, and we'll be right back with Congressman Farr after this message.
12 O'Clock High is one of the undisputed best movie classics of all time. Required viewing at U.S. service academies and officer training schools. It is also one of the best business learning tools available. The movie rated #1 by top executives for its influence on their management styles. Now, the inspiration of the 12 O'Clock High Leadership and Management Summit. An innovative one-day event and 30-day follow-up where you'll quickly see what's working and not working on the front lines of your company and in your own leadership style. From J.L. White International and hosted by best-selling author and world-recognized management consultant Jim White, Ph.D., this event has already been attended by more than 100,000 business leaders in 22 industries worldwide. Now it's your turn. The 12 O'Clock High Leadership and Management Summit.
We're back with Congressman Farr. What a fascinating hour. I've just loved it. There's some, we'll switch hats for a moment from the district to national. In January 2013, there are some pending changes.
There's a avalanche of changes.
Huge.
I'll be back in Washington tomorrow, and thank you for having me on your program. I'm glad we could arrange it while I was here this weekend. My pleasure. But the end of this year, this calendar year,
right,
it's super train wreck. Because you've never had all at once coming. First of all, we passed laws saying that we're going to, if we couldn't figure out internally how to cut, squeeze, and trim the budget and raise some new revenues, which we did with the super committee. Mm-hmm. They did all the hearings, equal number of Democrats and Republicans, and after it was all done, they couldn't reach any consensus. So we said, in case that happens, guess what we can do? We'll just cut a government across the board. And so we call that sequestration. And that begins, as you said, at midnight at the end of this year. And the president has to submit a budget with a $1.4 trillion cuts across the board. So the Defense Department, being one of the biggest users of defense of dollars, is also the biggest one that's cut. And our Secretary, Leon Panetta, said, we can't make those cuts. I mean, it would just be too hard. So then Congress has praised, okay, if you're not going to do it operational, what are you going to do? And we haven't figured it out yet. And, we've got a few months left. That's just number one. Number two is that we also have a debt limit coming up again. We have to vote to raise that. The Republicans, last time we did it, held us hostage right down to the last hour. Right. And one of the things that came out of holding us hostage was this sequestration procedure, which they enacted into law. Now complaining that it's going to hit us in the face. So we have to do it again. And I don't know what the conditionality is going to be for that, but hopefully we don't go to the brink and scare the whole international markets as to the United States may renege on its debt. The next thing we haven't done is we haven't approved an appropriations process. That has to be done by September 30th. Beginning of the new fiscal year is October 1st. I don't think we're going to have it done, so we're going to probably kick the ball down the stream, just say keep government operating, which we call continuing resolution, until probably just 1st of January. Mm-hmm. So we've got to then have a huge mega adoption of an appropriations bill. And there's a couple of other things but I remember that I was saying this the other day, that are also on the agenda that sunset at the end of the year. We've had to do one of those things before, or maybe two of them, but never all of them. So this is going to be, and you have to have enough votes, and you got to get a consensus in both houses, and the president's got to agree because he's got to sign all this. And right now, there's no way you can put together in the very conservative Republican-controlled House and the more moderate-controlled Senate, which they get along with the Republicans over there, they'll come to consensus. But the minute they finally do that, the House rejects it. So Congress is at an impasse right now, and I don't know what breaks between now. I mean, there's an election, and I'm sure if people will probably wait the outcome of that election, and then see whether I think if Romney would win, he would just say, don't make any decisions, just continue all this stuff, keep it open. I don't know if he has the votes to do that because it takes it would take the Senate to agree to not have the tax cuts. Oh, the tax cuts. That's the other one I didn't add on there. Is that across the board tax? Across the board tax cuts. Right. They sunset. So all of the taxes that were in order when Bill Clinton was president would come back into law automatically, including inheritance tax and all kinds of other things. So there is a lot at stake by the end of this year. And I don't know right now whether we can, whether the leadership in both houses is willing to compromise enough. I mean, politics is the art of compromise, and so it's that art of compromise that we're looking for.
Yeah. Well, I've done several shows on the super committee, and I'm on record when that was done. I said, well, let's see how this works, and I'll go on record to be absolutely nothing's going to happen, unfortunately. And you're right. Politics is life is all about compromise. And what's going wrong? And we need another show. I realize I'm talking. What's going wrong in Congress and in Washington that the word compromise is a bad word? Because
American people aren't willing to compromise. Those people that are, for example, you've got absolutes. You know, we want to do away with Planned Parenthood because Planned Parenthood receives private money, and in their clinics they can have abortions. No government money, no state money, no public money whatsoever. Planned Parenthood does get public money to do family planning, which we ought to be doing. But now that has become, okay, we're not even going to allow you to do family planning. So where's the compromise? Where's the compromise where, as I talked to one legislator, he said, I want to work with you on education. We got to reauthorize No Child Left Behind. Let me just tell you where I'm coming from. I want charter schools, and I don't believe in public education, and I think we ought to all go to vouchers. I said, you don't believe in public? No, I don't think we have any public schools. Where do you begin to compromise when somebody leads with that?
Absolutely.
So that's what's different than ever in history is that, and guess what? The people that have elected them are respecting them too. So these districts that people are elected from feel the same way their member of Congress does, and they're not willing to compromise. So that's why we're stuck, because it's compromise on both sides. I've been in politics a long time. I know how to put a deal together, but you've got to also as you understand in business, the tipping point. You've got to be able to have those pressures, and you've got to have a lot of things lined up in order for the decision to be made, because you're going to step on some people's toes. But nonetheless, it has to be made, and we haven't reached that tipping point in America. In America, we've certainly reached it, I think, in crisis. I think that the sirens are ringing, but the people that are supposed to respond to that aren't willing to do what's necessary to put the fire out.
We need another show to dig down on that one. For our viewers, what can they do? What can the average homemaker at home watching the show today, and they know all of this is critical, and I know my producer's looking at me. He said, "Jim, what are you doing bringing this question up? We're up against the clock."
Well, in 30 seconds, what they have to do is get personally informed. Don't just believe if you're watching Fox News that everything on Fox is right, or if you're watching MSNBC. I mean, get some independent news. Look at some other stuff. And unfortunately, kids aren't being raised to do that, to be an independent thinker, because somewhere in there, I mean, frankly, we have to raise this nation and raise the support and the advancement of democracy like we try to raise children. And we have to stop this negative, derogatory message giving all the time. If you raise children like that, they would grow up to be dysfunctional adults. And unfortunately, we're a nation of negatives now, not a nation of positives. That's part of the art of compromise.
We're going to have to leave it on that. Congressman Farr,
Thank
thank
you.
you so much. You have an open invitation.
Thank
You've
you.
been watching the Circle of Success Show with Dr. Jim White, and we've had Congressman Sam Farr from the 17th District of California for the full hour.
This has been Jim White's Circle of Success. Please visit our website, jlwcos.tv. Join us next time as Jim White brings it all together on Jim White's Circle of Success.